I think there was a time in my life where I was more afraid of going back to being homeless than I was getting out of my comfort zone. And that's a lot. It sounds easy, but if you really digest what I just said, that's a lot. I programmed myself to be afraid to go back. And when you're afraid to go back to something, you run from it. So I ran towards opportunities. I ran towards mentors. You know, I wouldn't be where I am in life right now if at some point I started to subscribe to the mindset that I need to surround myself around people who outthink me. Like what you just described, to me, that's, Les Brown says, you got to get out of your head and get into your greatness. And the head says, you know, bro, you shouldn't be all doing all this time. It was marijuana. Like that's the head talking, right? But the reality is, you know, those are very defeating words. And if you repeat them enough, you start to believe them. And if you really start pulling it back to the original you, like that 9-month-old version of you, and people think I'm crazy, but these are conversations I have with myself. Johnny, you didn't give up when you were in the battered women's shelter. You didn't give up when you failed the second grade. You kept moving, man. Like you, like, and it's those inner conversations that you have with yourself. Like if somebody else was born to win, then I might as well be born to win too. So when I started subscribing, like it's almost like, you buy subscriptions to Netflix, you buy a subscription to Hulu, Fandango, whatever it is, you buy these subscriptions. Well, what are you subscribing to mentally and emotionally for you? I'm subscribing to the possibilities that increase is always on the table. I'm subscribing to the possibility that winning is always on the table. I don't remember learning that. I don't remember. As a matter of fact, I have never entertained being broke, even when I was broke. Like I never entertained not being successful when I had nothing. So there is something that's inside us that we were born. Like I believe that we were born, and I talk about it in my book. You talk about choices. The subtitle of the book is From Adversity to Prosperity Through the Choices You Make. This is my first book. It's my first book. My newest book is Building a Millionaire Mindset. It's a hardback book afforded by Les Brown, endorsed by Emmett Smith, Bishop T.D. Jakes, a lot of like very strong people, but it talks about the mindset. And I wrote this book as a roadmap to my children if anything ever happened to me. It has nothing to do with making $1 million. It has something to do with the mindset to maintain and sustain a millionaire lifestyle and what it takes to get there. So when I talk about like, where did it come from? I don't remember having to use energy to fight to think that way. And if you talk to a drug dealer, you've been in the streets, you know what it's like. Like, you really can't start that game if you plan to lose. Like, there's something inside you that's willing to take that risk. There's something inside you that's willing to put your life in jeopardy, and you do it anyway. That's a champion going in the wrong direction. So it's not like it's not there. You're just using that channel in the wrong direction. Bring those exact same risks. Like you got CEOs of companies that are looking for risk takers. But in our community, we take the risk to go the opposite way. And that's what society actually wants us to do. Did you know that they build prisons based on behavioral habits of African American men? But by the time I think it's like second to sixth grade.
Third grade. Yeah, I already know. That's crazy.
Oh, here's what you know is crazier. We've never let them down.
That's right.
We've always outperformed.
Yeah. It's predictive analysis.
So at some point, it's our responsibility. Johnny, what's feeding you more than anything right now is helping rebuild what I helped tear down. Because when I sold drugs, I sold crack. I never thought to myself how I'm destroying families. And that's crazy, right? Like you would think, well, that's common sense, Johnny. No, it wasn't common sense to me. It was about making money. I never knew when I was selling crack that that person went home to a family and probably caused hell in the house. If I would have thought that way morally and consciously, it would have shook me. I never wanted to be the person that destroyed a family.
You weren't thinking about that. You're just thinking about getting a check.
Yeah. And what's crazy, it's common sense. I wasn't even tapped into common sense.
Common sense is not that common. But you were also young at the same time, right? When you started selling crack, I mean, you were a kid. Were you?
I was a kid. And here's what's crazy. You got to be very careful what you say to kids because it was somebody who I love, who I care about, a mother type figure. And I just remember I was sitting in the back seat of the car, and I remember the drugs coming into the community. I remember when dad started to disappear from families. And I remember I said out loud, I was sitting in the back seat. I think I was looking in the rearview mirror. This is how well I remember it. And I was like, I would never sell drugs. And this mother-like figure of mine said, never say what you won't do. And you talking about a crack of a door opening, it opened a crack of a door for me to see things differently because she said that. Got to speak life. Got to speak life. Even if you're saying cliches, these are kids, man. These are kids. I heard a cliche and I adopted it. Next thing I know, I'm UGK. I'm a pocket full of stones. Like all these things are starting. True story.